Hello, everybody. How's it going? This is Will with another episode of Storytime with Will, and just got finished a little bit ago finishing up Stranger Things 2. So I really want to talk kind of not so much about Stranger Things 2, but more about Stranger Things 1. It really just dialogue about what I learned as far as being a storyteller and things like that from the first season of from Stranger Things. Now, like I said, I'm not really going to try to get into Stranger Things Volume 2. I know a lot of people may not have finished that yet, but we're going to get into Season 1 a bit. So if you haven't seen Season 1 yet, spoilers, just spoilers. So, you've been warned. So I'm going to get into Stranger Things Volume 1 and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alright, so Stranger Things Volume 1. The Duffer Brothers created this series in a place called Hawkins, Indiana, where there are a group of friends. And we start off with this group of friends. They are playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons. And Mike basically introduces to the group the monster that they're going to be facing. And at first they're all guessing what it's going to be. They end up not, he ends up kind of playing with them a little bit first, and then eventually brings out the Demogorgon. The Demogorgon monster is a little bit of a foreshadowing of what's coming later, because they begin to realize as time goes on, something's not quite right in the city of Hawkins. Dustin and Will are riding home on their bicycles. All of a sudden, through situations, Will is kidnapped by something. We don't really know what it is. We just know that it's some creature, and it kidnaps Will. So at the beginning of the series, we've got this mystery going on. Well, what kidnapped Will? Where is Will? Is he okay? Is he alive? Is he dead? What's the situation? And so you have a situation where, as they're going through this time, as they're working through this situation, you see some characters like Will's mother, Joyce. As the series goes on, she progressively finds out that she can kind of communicate to Will, but it's not in a very conventional way. You have this person named Hopper, who's the chief of police, and Hopper's trying to search for him, and he's being told different things. He's not believing a lot of them because, as we find out, there's this group that is experimenting on psychic people and their psychic abilities, and these creatures in this place that's later referred to as the Upside Down. Anyway, you have, the other friends. You have Will, who's the one that's kidnapped. You have Dustin, Mike, and Lucas. And those are the friends. Those are kind of the guys who hang out together. They do things together. And so once Will comes up missing, Dustin, Mike, and Lucas are the ones that really come together and try to find him. When they're first out trying to find him, they find this little girl named Elle. This little girl has psychic abilities. She has the ability to move things in her mind and different things like that. She also has a limited ability to communicate in the land of the Upside Down. So she becomes a real big asset, but of course they have to go through the process of learning how to trust her. She has to learn how to trust them. She learns that friends don't lie. And so she gets to see that as time goes on during the course of the series. Then you have, we talked about Joyce. What she does is, as she's trying to deal with the loss of her son, at one point, her and her other son, Jonathan, are told that they find a body. As time goes on, Hopper and others discover that the body they found was not Will, and it was a fake in order to kind of end the case and close the case. So then you have Jonathan. While he's out doing this, he's a photographer. That's his hobby. And so he's going out taking pictures and different things like that. And he's really interested in this girl named Nancy, who just happens to be Mike's older sister. Nancy has a friend named Barb, and Nancy also dates a guy named Steve. If you've ever seen any old 80s movies, Steve is the quintessential jock in an 80s movie. And so basically he's kind of conceited. He feels like he's the best thing since sliced bread. He's this normal, average, everyday dude who has no competition and he has no equal. And so during a party, Nancy and Steve hook up. Well, Barb's outside because, Nancy didn't want to go by herself, so she took Barb with her. Barb was trying to be cool like the rest of the kids. She ended up cutting her hand. In the process of cutting her hand, she sat outside and waited while Nancy and Steve got it on. Next thing you know, Barb gets grabbed by some of the same creatures that grabbed Will, and Jonathan just happens to be in the woods taking pictures. Jonathan, during the course of the series, has been taking the pictures of Nancy, so he shows up at this party, he's taking pictures, and he actually ends up taking a picture of Barb getting grabbed and the Demogorgon. So later that becomes a factor because Nancy pieces the pictures together and then she sees the Demogorgon for the first time in these pictures. Meanwhile, Joyce, Will's mother, is talking to Will through Christmas lights strung up all around the house. So if you think like old school, like Poltergeist, for example, where people are talking to the TV screens and different things like that, that comes into play several different times during the course of the series. As time goes on, the boys grow to really trust each other. They begin to trust Elle. There's a moment where there's a big fight because Elle's messing with they're using a deal to tell them where to go, and she's messing with the needle because she doesn't want to face the Demogorgon. And Lucas eventually figures that out. Lucas goes and tells him, it's like, oh my gosh, you're she's messing with the stuff. She's doing it intentionally. She's doing this. And so even through that, she ends up breaking up the fight. She accidentally knocks Lucas out of a fit of anger. But then she leaves because she's just like, I don't want to hurt them. I need to go do something. I need to figure something out. There's a point in the show where Hopper and Joyce go looking for information on Elle because they figure out who Elle is. And they go to a lady named Terry Ives. Turns out she's talking about the government taking her little baby girl named Jane because she had powers. They put two and two together and figure out this little girl is Jane. And so as time goes on, they go back to Hawkins. They're trying to figure out what's going on. There's a sense with Elle that she could go one or two ways. She could either go like E.T., and trust me, that's a reference that's there. If you've never seen E.T., that's a classic sci-fi movie. Go watch it. She could either go the way of E.T. and kind of be the real sweet, nice, innocent thing, or she could go like Carrie or the Firestarter movies, and she could just become a destructive force of nature. Anyway, time goes on. Things happen. People start connecting with Will in the Upside Down. Joyce at one point gets an axe toward the wall, kind of like on The Shining. Tries to go into the wall, tries to tear it apart, tries to do all these things. Next thing you know, what happens? The Demogorgon ends up coming through the wall. So, a little Nightmare on Elm Street-ish, where the monster shows up. Then people are calling her crazy in town and all this other crazy stuff, but as time goes on, she knows what she's seeing. She knows what she's dealing with. Eventually, Hopper and her end up getting a pass into the Upside Down. They have to give away Elle's location in order to do it. But they end up going into the Upside Down. They eventually save Will. Meanwhile, the Demogorgon shows up at Joyce, Will, and Jonathan's house. So Jonathan and Nancy and Steve get together, and they're beating down the Demogorgon there. Well, then the other kids are at the school. They find Elle, and Elle starts trying to communicate to help them find Will while they're in the Upside Down. So the Demogorgon shows up because Elle ends up wiping out everybody in this place. And the next thing you know, the Demogorgon shows up in a big final finale. Elle has to take out the Demogorgon pretty much by herself. She looks at Mike and she says, bye. I've got to go. And we don't know what really happens. We don't know. All we know is that a big flash of light occurs. She starts using her powers. Anytime she uses her powers, her nose bleeds. And so she uses her powers. The next thing you know, her and the Demogorgon are gone. And so we get to the end of the series, and Will's back at home. It's Christmas at this point. Hopper goes off to feed Elle in this little place out in the woods. He apparently still knows where she is. And so he puts food out there for her so she can get it. Then you go to Will's house. Will excuses himself from dinner. And while he's in the bathroom, he spits up a slug, a dark, black, icky slug. And then on top of that, he even ends up going back into the Upside Down. So at the end of the season, you get a sense that we're not done with the Upside Down yet. And apparently the Upside Down is not done with us. So, just a real quick, real brief, just want to talk about a couple of things I learned during the course of watching this series about writing. The first thing I learned was you got to take time to build your world. However long it takes to build your world well, build it. Whether you're using D&D to kind of help build it, whether you're using different movies to kind of speak into it and be homages in it. I mean, this movie picks up from stuff like Firestarter, E.T., The Shining, Nightmare on Elm Street, Stand By Me, Poltergeist, The Breakfast Club, Predator, Aliens, Jaws. It even picks up a little bit from anime like Elfen Lied. It's John Carpenter movies as far as the music and different things like that goes. There's a lot of influences in this series, but it feels fresh because they use all of this to help build the world. And so when you're writing, you always want to make sure to kind of come up with ways to build the world around you. Then you look at the characters. You look at the fact that, okay, yeah, Will gets kidnapped, but guess what? These other people, there was a cat that jumped up in the thing there, so that's probably the reason why that went off. Anyway, so there's Will, who gets kidnapped. His being kidnapped kind of drives a lot of people in the town to come together. But as he's coming together and different things like that, as these people are going out and doing things, you see like Dustin slowly growing up, and he's kind of being the silly guy. You see Mike kind of becoming, kind of maybe falling for Elle just a bit, but he's also becoming a bit of a protector for her. They really help. They dress her up. It's like I see it out of E.T., where they dress her up in a pink dress and a wig. You got Lucas, who really has to become not only this confident kind of second in command, but he also really becomes the one. He's really the voice of reason for the series. And you see other characters grow. Steve, who's Nancy's boyfriend at the beginning of this, really starts off as a jerk. Well, by the end of the series, in this first arc, he kind of gains a little bit of a soft edge to him. So it's really neat to see how that grows. Nancy gets affected by Barb being gone. And in season 2, you will see how that continues to affect her. You know, Jonathan is kind of this loner who the only real person he really cares about at the beginning of the series is his brother and his mom. Well, as time goes on, he does care about Nancy as a friend. You know, they actually start developing a real friendship. And so being an outcast and growing from being an outcast to being someone that's trusted is really neat. So characters are important. And then the last thing I want to talk about is how you develop bad guys. Because when you look at, for example, Dr. Brenner being the one that led the group of bad guys who are running around trying to find out all this information about psychic phenomena in the Upside Down and really playing God. You know, he kind of has this idea that he's playing God. He sees this area. He knows how dangerous it is. He kept sending people in and out of there to try to figure out what's going on. There were a bunch of people working with him to see what was going on, to make things happen. And in the process, he unintentionally ends up bringing the monster to Hawkins. And so it's interesting because there's a point in one of the latter scenes of the series where Elle looks at Mike and says, yes, that is the monster, but I'm a monster too. Because she understands, based on what she was taught, that she may be the only thing that can send this thing back where it belongs. She has to kind of become a monster to do it. So Dr. Brenner, you know, and then you got the Demogorgon itself. And the Demogorgon kind of feels like Jaws. It's just a thing that's hungry to devour whatever it's near. It doesn't have a whole lot of motive. It doesn't have a whole lot of drive. It feels like there's something bigger that is pushing its button, so to speak, and it's just kind of droning out, just kind of doing whatever it wants to do. So that's really all I got to say about Stranger Things. So this is a kind of a recap of season 1. If you have not watched Stranger Things season 1, watch it. What are you doing watching this? Watch that. Then go watch season 2. I promise you, you'll enjoy the series. I don't know many people who've said anything negative about it. But anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And be blessed and bless somebody. And this is another episode of Storytime with Will. And we'll be back with you real soon to come up with another great story. I've got a story to tell, and I know you do too. And I hope and pray to inspire you to tell it.